Well, thank you, Paige, and welcome everyone. In part one of our Older Condos webinar series, we talked about the situation at Champlain Towers South, with its unfortunately now just a bare hole in the ground where about 100 people have lost their lives. This is the size of tragedy we just don't expect in our industry. Now, in that part one webinar, we discussed the situation from 4 different perspectives: the legal environment, board member liability, property insurance, and reserves. All of those topics addressed the what happened. Now, here in Older Condos Part 2, we're going to tackle the subject of the board response. So across the country, what lessons do we take away from this tragedy? How do we move forward with appropriate change? How do we apply best practice? And in doing so, minimize the chance that a tragedy of this magnitude would ever happen again. Now, there were 40 years of decisions at Champlain Towers South. At this point in time, we still don't know exactly what led to the collapse. We do suspect it was a combination of factors, but we do want to share best practices with you so you can make adjustments in how you effectively operate at your association. And hopefully that will make the present less stressful than the current anxious environment, and the future more secure. And as you've heard, with me today is management expert Julie Adman. She's principal of Adman Inc., a consulting and employment firm specializing in the management industry. I've known Julie for most of my years in business. We'll call it just a few years.
10 years.
Yeah, 10 years. And I've always relied on her perspective, her insights, her wise counsel, and her clarity. So Julie, tell us what we need to know, what board members can take away, how we can create a better post-Surfside future.
Well, thanks, Robert, for having me today, and welcome to everyone. Thank you all for attending this. I see we've got a lot of board members, and I want to start out by saying I am a board member. I sit on 2 boards, and again, I don't know what I was thinking, but I am sitting on 2 boards. So I have run the gamut of all ends of it: manager, consultant, board member, all of it, and vendor. I'm a vendor as well. So there I am. I've got all the hats on. But you know, I want to tell you that when I first heard about Champlain Towers, I was in the car driving back from central Washington. We were on a short vacation, and it hit me like a gut punch. And I'm sure, Robert, you felt the same way. I mean, it hit me like, and I haven't managed an association personally in quite a few years, but it could have been mine. All I was thinking of, oh my God, that could have been my board. That could have been my community, my building, and one of our own. I mean, it was one of the troops. That's how it felt.
That's my industry. It could have been a friend of mine.
Could have been a friend of mine. I could have been the manager. I mean, I could have been a board member there. I could have been a whole, I mean, it was just all a part of all of that together. So it was, for our whole industry, I think it's been a rather emotional and interesting, but a journey here. And as horrific as it is, there are things we can take away as an industry and take away as board members and managers from this process. Now, again, as Robert said, we don't know what really happened. I would suspect he's correct, that it was a confluence of events over a very long period of time that led to this catastrophic failure. But again, we don't know that yet. But what we do know is that the board at Champlain Towers, the last board, was the last board, I call it, they were the last one at musical chairs. They were the board left holding the bag of 40 years of decisions or no decisions that created the situation, the financial situation that this community found itself in. And if many of you, if you have not read the articles on it, there was a wonderful one in the Washington Post. This was not too long after it was the incident happened. New York Times, even the Atlantic, terrific articles in that. But the board president wrote a fantastic letter, multi-page letter, to the homeowners back in March or April, right, Robert?
Correct.
March, April, to tell them what was going on. There was going to be a $15 million assessment over 136 units. So, and they pay by the square foot. I think the largest assessment was over 200 and the smallest one was about 100, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Depending on how big your unit was. But in anyone's estimation, if you were the board having to tell your owners that, you know what that was like. And that it was the most amazing courageous thing that board did. They took that bull by the horns and they wrestled it to the ground as best they could. And it took quite a while. It wasn't, when the media got involved in this, all they could initially say was, oh my gosh, there's a building engineers report from 2018. Why didn't they jump on it? Well, as all of you know out there, you're around the industry, board members, homeowners, managers, things take a long time. Now drop COVID in the middle of that. And we were shut down. Even in Florida, they were shut down, or it took a long time to get things going. So they went as fast as they could, considering the politics. At least that's the way I would view it, the politics and then the shutdown. And they were on their way to getting things happening, right? But that board had courage. And so I want to talk briefly about the 4 C's of, I would say, community management, or the 4 C's of what your responsibility as board members. Mine too. I'm on a board too. The first one is your duty of care. I mean, that means you have to care for what's going on, meaning the people, care for what's going on financially, and care for your role as a business person and a trustee on behalf of others. That's your duty of care.
Julie,
The next, yes, go.
what you're talking about here is just things that average people can do. We're not talking about developing a specialty.
No.
We're talking about, now you're a consultant, you're an expert, arguably, but we're talking about, I would just want to say, average homeowners. They bought the home because they liked the floor plan. They liked it was close to their office. They liked it because of the view. We're just talking the characteristics of average homeowners who do turn into be board members.
Board members, exactly. These are just regular people. Just, well, I don't know. You could be a lawyer or a doctor or whatever. That doesn't mean you know anything about HOA management. So you're all really just, everyone is just a normal person in this process, thrust in with 5 or 6 or 7 other people, and all your personalities working together with all your differing experiences. And you are on this board and you are charged with these things. So there's care. The next one is, and I think this is often one we don't think about, but it's curiosity. I mean, you can't have blinders. You can't, be a board member like this. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to see it. You can't do this. You have to have curiosity about what's going on. I mean, I think, Robert, you had said, and I had read this as well, but there were cracks that were probably evident at that particular community for years, would you say?
I would say years. The size of those cracks, they must have been there for many years. And the curiosity is like, how come we have cracks, and how come there's no cracks at the grocery store? How come there's no cracks at the bank or at my church?
Right.
Should we care? Is this significant?
Yes, exactly.
Exactly what you're talking about.
It's exactly right. So you have to have, this is part of your duty as a board member. You have to have that curiosity. If you don't live in a high-rise condominium, but you live in an HOA that, you've got a lot of greenbelt lawn area and all the lawn's brown and the sprinklers are on, well, there's a problem. So you would not let that slide. Just like, so whether it is highly visible or whether maybe just a few board members know something's wrong, it's your duty to find out what is wrong and what can be fixed, or what should be done with it.
Yeah. And if you don't know, then you ask the question.
You got to find, Robert, you told a great story about your grocery store and the Xeriscape. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I live in Southern California, and so we're sensitive to water. And there was a new grocery store that went in close to our home, and they had some nice low water required vegetation that they put in. Looked great. And I checked with my board, and they had already found out, they had asked their landscaper that due to the tree coverage that we have and due to the soil that we have, that greenscape would not work at our association. And they had the curiosity. They asked because they didn't know. They saw something that they liked, and they got an answer because, I didn't know the answer. I thought, gee, that looks nice. But they asked the question, they got an answer. And maybe it would have been nice to communicate that in the newsletter, but at least they showed that they cared.
I agree. They cared, they had the curiosity, and they actually sought out the answer from, I believe, your landscape contractor.
Correct.
Who would actually be your on-site expert. Right. So another thing, folks, don't forget, you have a whole bevy of experts that work for you. The next I want to talk about is courage. Now, I want to tell you, this board at Champlain Towers, the last board standing at Musical Chairs, they had courage. They are the ones who said, we are going to make this happen. We are going to tell everyone what is going on. We have no choice as a community but to do this. Now, I want to tell you, unless you have managed or been a board member or lived in a high-rise situation, it's a little different from any other community, including just regular condominiums, patio homes, or even maybe, a place that could be a walk up a 2-story, something like that, because everyone has the same front door. It makes a different dynamic than if you're living in a regular condominium complex and you can drive off to your own driveway, right? So if you're a board member and you are telling your unit owners that there is going to be a $15 million special assessment, and you guys can all, I can feel it, frankly, through the Zoom. Everyone's going, oh my God, that'd be horrible. But you have to ride up the elevator with people who despise you, because instantaneously, some of those people will have negative equity in their home, which is arguably the biggest investment and wealth creator we typically have as Americans, is your home, right? That $100,000 that I'm going to have to pay, I was going to put my kid through college with that. I mean, it just horrific, the courage it took these people to do. And if you have not had a chance to read the board president's letter, again, someone can email me. I can certainly send them a link to it. It is stunning and outstanding, which brings me to our last C. It is communication. And I think I would say the biggest problem in almost all community associations is a lack of consistent, cogent, and positive communication about what is going on. Now, I know somebody in the last session, we did one right before this, asked about, well, are minutes a good thing to send out? Shouldn't that be the communication from the board to owners? And absolutely not. The minutes only take, it's call to order, quorum, and motions approved. It's not discussion. It's not the background. It's not telling people the details. And I want to tell all you board members out there, if you are trying to get anything big done or even midway done in your community, if you have had a consistent communication strategy, a newsletter, an e-blast, whatever it is, that goes to all your owners regularly, once a month or so, to keep them informed about what's going on, the difference in getting things accomplished with the least amount of pain is night and day. Wouldn't you think so, Robert?
Absolutely. It's one thing to just report the facts. It's another thing to help guide the association, because at too many associations, you have differing factions. You have the homeowners and you have the board. And when the board communicates and is transparent and is saying the facts of the matter are insurance has gone up, the water bill has gone up, the power has gone up, the management contract has gone up, the pool service company has gone up, we have to raise our assessments. You need to be transparent about that. You need to make sure that the homeowners are not thinking, oh, that crazy board is doing something weird. Get in front of it, outline it, be proactive. That's something that you can do in a newsletter. You can do that in posting on the lobby. Get excited. Next year, we're getting new lobby furniture. Thank you for your reserve contributions. Thank you, things like that you can do to be proactive and get people on board, and helping them understand that we live in an environment where the board is helping the association maintain its status in the community, and it takes money.
It does take money. And, as you and I talked about this before, is that, when a board is faced with something like Champlain Towers was faced with, I mean, there was a community that had virtually zero reserves. I think they had about $700,000, 200,000 of which they had that set aside for insurance deductible or premium, one of the two.
I believe that's correct. Yes.
Yeah. So they really had about 500,000 for a 40-year-old high rise. So, and that just tells you that over the years, they were not raising assessments up enough to create any kind of savings account. And a thing that all boards need to understand, and we say this professionally all the time, is that it's much easier to get a 3% increase or a cost of living increase or the CPI index increase every year than to slam everybody with $100 increase or a big fat special assessment all at once. And the thing about it, as board members, it's our job as board members not to just think about today. I mean, obviously, I just have to deal with my people today. But I'm really thinking about, and all board members should think about, the board members in the future and the community in the future. Our job is to preserve, protect, maintain, and enhance the communities, not just for today, but for the future as well.
Yeah, it's not a matter of just hanging on. And the kind of things you're talking about is combining these things together, where you have the courage to say that we live in an inflationary economic environment. we need to raise the monthly assessments a little bit this year.
Mhm.
And doing that little bit of courage on an annual basis is going to be a lot less courageous than if you have to say, whoops, 5 years down the road and say, yeah, we need a 27% increase.
Yes.
Because we did these, we wouldn't say it, we foolishly were pretending that inflation was going around our association.
Mhm.
And so it's a matter of looking at what are the true costs of ownership at our association.
Mhm, mhm. And don't forget, our duty as board members is to, and as managers, it's our duty to guide board members in this direction. But is that our duty is not to keep assessments flat. In fact, I would argue, and quite forcefully, and I would be correct, that it's your fiduciary duty not to do that. It's your fiduciary duty to look after the financial health of the community. And you know, associations, Robert, you gave a great stat earlier, associations that have funded reserves, how much are the homes worth more? The units are worth
Yeah.
more?
At associations with a strong reserve fund, the homes are worth 12.6% more. And that just shows the reality of curb appeal. When you have the reserves on hand to do the projects on time, the lobby gets remodeled, the entry gate gets fixed in a timely manner, paint on the building, the roof gets replaced in a timely manner, the cooler, the chiller, the boiler, all those things ending up, I get excited here, end up doing some great things for home values. And so if you're talking about $600,000, $700,000 homes like they were at Champlain Tower South, even a 10% boost in home values is 60 or 70 grand.
Yes.
And when you are setting aside $20 a month more, $50 a month more in your monthly assessments, that is small compared to the payback in home values.
And happy homeowners. Because I will tell you, as all you board members know, as Robert and I know, being in the industry for so long, when things are well maintained and they don't just kind of peter out and look kind of crummy, when the mailboxes get replaced and with something new and great that doesn't leak, we just did that at the community I'm a board member on, and they're all uniform, they look terrific, people love it. And when it started happening, we knew we had to do it. We got a plan and we replaced all of them, you know, the big, the communal mailboxes. And, you know, when things like that happen, people believe the board is tuned, and they're correct. The board is tuned to the needs of the community. So that happens. If we need to redo anything or repaint, the common area garages, when that gets done, people go, oh, the board's doing something. That's right.
Yeah, that's what's happening with my money.
That's exactly correct. That's happening with my money. And that, and again, what do we deal with? People's living arrangements and their cash. It's like being married to them. You're like married to all your homeowners association. It's a relationship. But it is exactly right. People want to, they may grumble about the little increases, but I will tell you that overall, over a period of time as board members, you will hear a lot more, well, a lot less griping. I was going to say a lot more kudos, but maybe I'll just say a lot less griping when things look good, are taken care of. People feel like they are being, and their concerns are being cared about. And that's what they really want. So, I mean, what's the saying? People don't know, they don't care how much you know till they know how much you care.
Yeah, if they're doing the right thing. Right,
Yeah.
doing the right thing.
Doing the right thing, correct.
Julie, I want to follow up on something you said about short-sightedness and knowing what they're trying to accomplish, and the whole courage question. When the board is, the only number they have to look at is the monthly assessment rate, there's a tendency to want to keep that low. Yep. And we call that pursuing the fool's gold of low monthly assessments, because that gets you nowhere. The building has needs. And as much as we can, we try to encourage boards to look at a true number. You talked about their role to protect, maintain, enhance the assets of the corporation. You can look at that combined relationship between the property's physical and financial condition in the percent funded that's reported in the reserve study. That's the big number. And it's that number that will sway the association. So you have enough money to do things in a timely manner, or you don't have enough money. When your percent funded is in the 0 to 30% range, that's where special assessments and deferred maintenance are common. In the 30 to 70% middle range, special assessments are infrequent. They happen, but they're somewhat rare. When your percent funded is above 70%, special assessments are indeed rare. Those are the associations that when they get things done in a timely manner. When the roof fails and it's $250,000, the board says, oh no, and they all fall off the chairs. But then they look at their reserve say and they say, oh,
We've got that.
we have it.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
write the check and they make it happen. They don't have water leaks in the top floor. Things work so much better when you have the cash. And that
Exactly.
gives the board a better, more effective target to be looking at. And
It gives the board tremendous credibility in the eyes of the owners too, because they know what they're doing, they manage it well, and when things need to be fixed, it gets fixed. It doesn't wait for, it doesn't wait. Well, we'll try and eke it out next year while things starting to look in disrepair, which nobody likes. People may think they don't want to pay, but they for sure like coming into entry gates that work and are painted.
Yep, and elevators that.
Yeah.
All 4 elevators work reliably.
At once. Yeah.
Yeah. How about
exactly.
that? Yeah.
I know.
And I want to do a little more linkage to the courage.
Sure.
There will be some in the chat or the Q&A that ask about how do you go about making the case for raising reserve contributions or making reserve contributions. And again, that's the communication. How are you going to engage the homeowners to support it in areas or at associations where the homeowners have a vote in the say? They have perhaps line item veto, or they get to approve the budget. Well, the key is with reserves, make sure you are explaining reserves as the cost of ongoing deterioration. The roof deteriorates a little bit each month. And just because the roof doesn't send a bill, that doesn't mean it's a bill that you can avoid. The roof deterioration bill is real. It's as real as the electric bill, or the management bill, or any other bill at the association. So characterize reserve contributions as offsetting ongoing deterioration. Don't talk about it for the future, for a rainy day, for the next roof, because then it starts to seem like it's someone else's problem. So
or for the next board, or 10 years down, I'll move out by then,
There you go. Not my problem. Say,
right.
Hey, we're not talking about the next roof. All we're doing is the small cost of offsetting ongoing deterioration. We're paying that bill of the roof bill, the asphalt bill, a little bit each month. And when you take care of the present, the future takes care of itself.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. And let's talk very briefly about the communication that needs to go on. People ask all the time, well, should we do that or should we have a newsletter? Yes. If you're not doing it, you should. And if you are one of these boards, like this last board at Champlain Towers, and you are looking at a large assessment or an increase in assessments, because that's what was handed to you by maybe 20 years of previous boards or even longer, and you're the ones who've decided to take this and run with it, communication is everything. And you need to have a strategy, a thought out strategy about what you're going to communicate every month. You should have a newsletter, electronic, whatever you're doing, newsletter or an e-blast. Maybe you want to change it up and have a town hall. Maybe the next time you want to have your attorney come in and speak to the owners. I mean, you might have to pay someone to write your newsletter for you if you just someone doesn't have the skill set to do it. But all of that, even if you have to pay your attorney to come and talk to everyone, but all of that is a small contribution for the overall health of the community, financial health, operational health, and its mental health. And you know what? All communities have a personality. Some are bulldogs and some are lap dogs and some are golden retrievers. So it's true. The golden retrievers are the easy ones. Okay. But everyone has that personality. So you're going to have to understand that you can't just send out a newsletter and forget it for 6 months and then tell everybody, wow, we're going to special assess everybody 10 grand. Yeah, you're going to have torches and pitchforks.
You haven't brought them up to speed. If you as a board member know that we're continually borrowing from reserves for the operational expenses. We haven't made the recommended reserve contributions for years. You know that you're coming up to a crisis situation. You need to prepare the homeowners for that. Just like if you were going to try to run a marathon, you need to start slow and begin the process. Here we are in August. If you see this coming, you need to begin preparing your homeowners that there is going to be an increase next year. We have enjoyed years of low assessments, but we need to start getting real about things and maybe have some testimonials from owners, how great it was in their other association, And here we're trying to be more like it, enlist the community. I think communication is probably one of the 4Cs, perhaps the most underappreciated.
It is underappreciated, and I get it because it takes a lot of time and people think I don't know how to write well or whatever, but you still, that communication has to be there. And Robert, you gave a great illustration of communication about the balconies. Would you regale us with that story? That's really good.
Yeah, I had one association, mid-size, mid-rise condo association, where they had 2 balconies off one building that with dry rot had crumbled and fallen. And the board knew that it was identical construction all throughout the association, and they're gonna have to do all the balconies. And so they said, we need a special assessment, and the special assessment failed. That's just because they said, what do you guys think about a special assessment? And the homeowner said, no.
No.
And so what they
No
did
one
was
ever says yes.
no, they took the debris from the 2 failed balconies and set it by the entry gate of the association. And so every day when those homeowners came in and out, they started to realize that, oh, my balcony is going to look like that in another year or 2. And the board reproposed the special assessment, and it passed a second time because they had enlisted the homeowners to understanding the magnitude of the problem. And it became their problem, not just, oh, gee, too bad for those people in unit 104 and 105.
Yeah, I don't look at them. They're over there. I don't see it. But boy, there's the balconies right by the entry gate. Very creative. Were they in LA? Were they a creative? Like
they were in LA. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very creative. I mean, and I hate that it has to go that way, but Robert's right. You can't just go to people and say, oh, we have to do this right now. It's communication continually, and not even when things are dire or bad, or there's going to be a special assessment. But as professionally, I would tell everyone, you should communicate with your owners all the time. Every month, there should be something going out, because when people know and they trust you as board members with what you're doing, again, it gives you great integrity, but also when you're communicating to them, you're bringing those people into the process of the management of the administration of the community. And people, a part of the process, have a tendency they want to be a part of a good process. And then they don't become a part of the angry mob coming to the nearest annual meeting, with their torches and pitchforks. If they feel they're in good hands, yes.
When they see themselves as part of the association,
yes,
not just the owner of unit number 501,
right.
When they say, this is my association, and they begin to appreciate what's going on, and their care, what used to be just their unit, now becomes my association.
Yes. And what everyone forgets, especially when you live in condominiums, is that, or not everyone, but a lot of people have a tendency to think, well, we're not going to fix that. Well, I'm not going to fix that. We're not going to fix that. Well, owners forget that they are the landlords. There is no landlord going to come in and fix this. You're not in an apartment. You're in an apartment-like space, but you are the landlord. You are in condominiums. You're typically deeded 1%, whatever. If there's 100 condominiums, you're deeded 1/100th of that. So, as opposed to HOAs where the HOA is deeded the common area. So you actually are the landlord. And for board members, that's kind of a nice little thing to remember, to tell them, we're the landlords, folks. We are, all of us, all 20 of us or 70 of us. Yes.
Yeah.